Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome along to this Europa League pre-match press conference. We're with Stefano Pioli and AC Bennacer. We'll start with Milan TV, Mauro Suma. Thank you, Laura. Good afternoon, Gaffer. Last season, we had an all-Italian clash in the quarter-finals last season against Napoli. You scored, played a great performance. These are matches where you need to be very clear-headed and you need to be very motivated. Will that be the case as well against Roma, Isma? Absolutely. We did well last season, but that's the past. Tomorrow we have one of the most important matches of the season coming up. We're ready. We've prepared very well, both physically and mentally. And it will be a great game, a very important match. Hi, Uzma. First and foremost, Eid Mubarak. Recently, Milan have been winning with very convincing performances. Can we compare this Milan side to the Scudetto winning team that was the peak of the last couple of years? No, it's a different Milan side. But I actually think this team is better than the Scudetto winning side. We have different types of players, quality players. We're more experienced. And we have a different spirit as well. Perhaps we're slightly younger, but when we're out there on the pitch, every single one of us would die for the other. Mediaset. You have the chance to win a European trophy, and for many of your teammates, because you're all a very young squad, how significant could that be in terms of making the dream come true? You were right, you said it's unique. It might be our only chance to win a trophy of this ilk in our careers. When you play in a competition like this, if you make it to the final, then you can win it. Especially when you're at Milan, especially when you have this mentality where you want to try and win absolutely everything. We'll take things one game at a time. For the moment, we are focused on tomorrow night's match, which will be an important game. Gazzetta dello Sport. Hi, Isma. Luca Bianchin from Gazzetta. You've just finished Ramadan. We know that it's a very unique period for those of you who fast during the day. Can you talk us through it, both from a spiritual perspective and athletically, how things changed and how you deal with that? If I'm quite honest, it doesn't change too much. Because when we are observing Ramadan, the head coach and his staff really help a great deal. They manage things very well, so I'd like to thank them for that, because it's not the case everywhere. I think it will be the same. It might even be better, because when you can eat and drink, you have a little bit more energy. But either way, I produced numbers during the period of Ramadan that I had never produced before, but I'll be even fitter. Milan News. I wanted to ask you as to whether the two-legged tie against Roma is make or break in terms of Milan's season. So the game against Roma, is it make or break for the season? We've got a game tomorrow, and we're not thinking about any other matches or any other teams. We're focused on Thursday's match. We're not thinking about anything else. Carlo Pellegatti at the back. Hang on, Carlo. We'll wait for the microphone to get to you, otherwise they won't be able to hear you at home. Thank you very much. Hi, Ismail. Typically, you're the one coming up with assists, but I'll give you an assist, a helping hand here. How many Milan players in a game between Real Madrid and Manchester City would have been a star player? Give me some names. Do you think there's some players that could have been at that level in yesterday's game? I think almost the entire team. We're all very good. I don't think we're... Yes, sure, Real Madrid and Manchester City are very good teams, but so are we. We have some excellent players in the squad, and I can't pick out one or two players from Milan. Bennacer? It's all of us or none of us, as far as I'm concerned. Bressi, last one for Isma. Hi, Isma. I'm over here. I wanted to ask you, something has changed for Milan since you've been available again. Of course, you're all very good midfielders, but with you, results have really improved a great deal. Do you feel you're even more of a leader in this side, given that you're one of the longest-serving members of this Milan side in midfield, and in terms of the principles of play that you've been able to convey to your colleagues in that area of the pitch? No, it's not that we've been playing well since my return. As you know, the process is always the same, the spirit's always the same. Occasionally there are times when we have a few more injuries and things are a little bit trickier. But we're a team. So when things are going well, it's because we're all doing well, and all of the players are playing well. Sure, I've been at Milan for a long time, almost 5 years now, and that does mean that I need to give a little bit extra in terms of the experience that I've acquired, in terms of how the head coach sees things when new players come to the club. So in terms of what to do and what not to do as well. I'm on the way back. I do feel that I'm not necessarily at 100% yet, but I'm working day in, day out to try and be at the peak of my powers. It's never easy to come back from a serious injury, but I'm trying to do that, and I give absolutely everything on the pitch, which is what matters most. Thank you very much, Ismail. And now we can focus on the head coach, Stefano Pioli. Thank you, Isma. So let's give the floor to Mauro Suma. Away we go. Thank you, Laura. Ever since the away goals rule has been abolished in European competition, both in last season's Champions League and indeed this time around in the Europa League, you've always played the first leg at home. Does it not matter whether you play the first or second leg at home since the away goals rule has been abolished? And managing these ties, have you got to grips with that now in terms of playing home first? No, it doesn't make a great deal ever since the away goals rule was abolished, and we have got used to playing the first leg at home, but where we've done a very good job in terms of Rennes and Slavia Prague is that we have taken a good first leg lead to the second leg, and that's the aim for tomorrow as well. Of course, it is a game which we played over not 90 but 180 minutes. We can't necessarily seal qualification tomorrow night, but what we could is give ourselves an edge over the opposition. That would be very important. Mediaset and then be in sports. If you could hand over a microphone, please. Hi, Stefano. How have Roma changed since De Rossi took over from Mourinho? And in terms of your plan to make it through to the semi-finals, you're very well set up in Serie A. Are you able to therefore rotate a bit more as opposed to De Rossi not necessarily being able to do so because he's fifth, so often he has to pick his best team everywhere, not only domestically but in Europe? Is that an advantage? I think De Rossi will pick his strongest 11 tomorrow night because it's a very important objective for us, but also for them. He knows what our play is all about, the form we're in, just as we know them very well. Two very good informed teams are coming up against each other. They've only lost once against Inter since De Rossi's been in charge. It's not only the derby that they've just won last weekend, that's in the entirety of his spell in charge. So we're certainly not thinking about Sassuolo or Serie A, but we're focused on tomorrow's game, and the same will go for them. Roma have changed since Mourinho left in terms of the way they approach matches, in terms of their positioning, the way that they defend and attack. So, of course, we have not necessarily revisited our previous matches, but we've looked at the games where De Rossi's been in charge. In sports, do you think this Milan side over the last few matches or last month, is it comparable to the Scudetto winning side or even better, as Isma said? No, I think Isma used a term which is the most appropriate one, different. It's a different Milan side. We've changed personnel, we've changed our setup, the way that we play. But that was a Milan side that achieved an incredible victory. This is a Milan side that's trying to go back to winning ways and lifting trophies. We are in good form, yes. But now this is the most important spell of the season, which will ultimately decide on how we've done, whether it's a positive or a negative season, what we've done well or not. But at this moment in time, we need to show how strong we are. We need to show that the journey we've been on, the highs and the lows, have allowed us to come through stronger at the end of it. But it comes down to us. It comes down to what we're able to produce tomorrow and in our upcoming matches. Tele Lombardia. I'd like to go to the specifics between Mourinho and De Rossi for Roma.
Lì avevamo mentalità europea, qui abbiamo mentalità di squadra, più romanista, più gruppo.
They're more of a Roman side since De Rossi's been in charge. What matters most? Is it the European mentality or being a team? No, being a team always matters a lot more than anything else. I think De Rossi is doing an excellent job, but I'm not referring to his principles of play, his positioning, or their positions on the pitch. But I think the most important thing for a coach is to be credible and to get your players on board with you, and to make sure that the players buy into what you're doing in terms of their attitude. And you can see that with De Rossi. He's doing an excellent job. As to what's changed or what hasn't, it hasn't been easy necessarily to beat a team like Roma when they defended with a lot of players when Mourinho was there. We'll be up against a different kettle of fish tomorrow with different characteristics, but we have struggled against teams that have sat deep. Occasionally we've struggled against teams that have pressed very high and disturbed our building out from the back. I don't know, quite honestly, what team he'll pick, because a number of teams before they come up against Milan have one strategy, but then after they play Milan, when they're familiar with our attacking players' skill sets, then they approach it differently. So I don't know. We're familiar with Roma. We know what De Rossi's Roma is all about. We know about their individual players because they're important players, but we don't know what we'll face tomorrow. But we are prepared. We are mature enough to be able to read what they concede to us and also make the most of our skill sets, and also with regards to their attitude. Corriere della Sera and then Francordine. Hi, Stefano. We still remember the excitement of the Champions League last night, and often we've stressed the difference between the level of Serie A and European matches in terms of officiating, something you've often touched upon. Tomorrow it is an all-Italian clash, but there's a French match official tomorrow. What is different between the Milan-Roma in the Europa League as opposed to Milan-Roma in Serie A? I think the atmosphere will be similar to a European competition, and of course it's different when it's a two-legged tie. I think once you get to this stage of the competition, sure, the Champions League is the Champions League, and yesterday we saw two incredible matches in terms of the technical level. However, within that fantastic technical level, all four teams made some mistakes, and they were significant errors. What I underlined to the team that I really liked, because I watched the Champions League matches as a fan, just to try and enjoy the show, but then afterwards, as a head coach, that tends to take over, and especially in Real Madrid against City, both teams made obvious mistakes defensively on the first goals that they conceded, but they kept on playing. They were aware of their ability. They had a very clear game plan. They had belief, self-confidence. They kept playing. I think that was the most important thing for a team, to have that mindset where you know what you can give, you know what you need to offer in order to get a result, and you're also able to overcome hurdles, because there will be times when things get tough over the course of 90 minutes. There's the opposition. We can't think that we're able to neutralize Roma all over the pitch tomorrow. Roma have good players. They play good football. We'll try and be more dangerous than them. We'll try and be more clinical than them. But we mustn't get concerned or discouraged if we concede or they're on top. We need to keep playing, keep believing in what we're doing and creating chances. We can cause problems throughout the 90 minutes. Ordine, Gazzetta.it, and then Aria. Hello, Gaffer. I'd like to come back to this subject matter, namely one which is very topical. What would you be willing to risk in order to provide the fan base, not only at San Siro, but those watching at home, a similar spectacle to what we saw between Real Madrid and Manchester City? We always take risks in terms of the way we want to play. We're a team that try and play attacking football, that try and build play. Of course, once we've got the ball, we try and cause problems for our opponents, and above all, we try and maximize our qualities. But of course, we won't always have the ball. We'll try and win the ball back as quickly as possible when they're in possession. But if I have an attacking team that makes the most of your attacking potential, of course, you do run risks, because you open up space, you commit numbers forward, and if you lose possession, of course, then naturally you do afford them a bit of space. But in terms of mentality, on paper, two teams meet each other that should offer a very aesthetically pleasing spectacle, because they'll try and attack, they'll try and cause problems for the opposition, and there are great individual players who can produce wonderful moments like Guardiol, Foden, Gabriel Jesus, Valverde, all of the matches from yesterday, and we'll see what happens in tonight's games as well. Gazzetta.it. Hi, Stefano. I'd like to come back to what the Champions League left as a legacy last night. In terms of the level of this competition, what is that where your Milan needs to get to, Champions League level at this stage of the competition? Yeah, I listened very carefully to the question you asked Isma and what Pelagatti asked Isma about how many Milan players could have made the teams yesterday. We were in the Champions League last season. That means we're at that level, and we weren't able to make it to the final, maybe because we weren't going into the game at the peak of our powers, but the opposition were better than us as and when we came up against them. But I don't think we're necessarily too far away from that. Of course, we still need to develop a bit, but I don't think we're too far off. And the Europa League is inferior to the Champions League, but ultimately, from now onwards, there are great teams in the Europa League. Liverpool, Bayer Leverkusen or Milan were playing in the Champions League. I don't think anyone would be overly shocked by that. Of course, we went out of the Champions League, but we're also the only group whereby there are still two teams in the quarter-finals of the competition. So that means that, unfortunately, we were in a very tricky group where we were just missing that last burst that we weren't able to achieve. But now we have a very significant goal, namely tomorrow night's match, to try and make it through in a very tricky round. But we need to really believe in what we're doing. Aria, Sport Italia, and then calciomercato.com. Hi, Stefano. Your Milan side have a very high average points per game domestically, whereas there are other coaches who are also called cup-winning coaches. How close are you to becoming a cup-winning coach? I don't believe in these distinctions. I believe in the way my team play football. We're a team that in terms of our ideas, our desire, our principles of play, I believe that we can be a side that play a modern brand of football. When you play a modern brand of football, that means in terms of intensity, tempo, unpredictability, in terms of positions and individual pieces of play. So I think we can be competitive, and our aim is to show that we can be competitive both domestically and in Europe. And I think that's the club's goal. The club's goal is to constantly improve. And we need to keep working very hard, to have faith in what you're doing, to have faith in the players, and try and show week in, week out on the pitch the best possible performances. Sport Italia. Letizia. Good afternoon, Gaffer. I wanted to ask you, with regards to the defence, what changes without Fikayo Tomori, who's suspended, and who has the edge over Thiaw and Kier, and what changes between Thiaw and Kier? Fick and Pierre Kalulu are both very quick, they're both very aggressive defenders, and the other defenders don't have those to the same extent, but will of course try and pair some good skill sets in terms of neutralising the Roma forwards and in terms of the positions we want to take up on the pitch. Thiaw and Kier have a similar opportunity to play at this moment in time, so I think I'll pick based on which player has the better profile in terms of the opposition tomorrow in the game that we want to play. Calciomercato.com. Let's get a microphone up to the front row, please. Thank you. As our colleagues were saying, these two teams are both on form physically and mentally. It looks like you're having fun at this stage of the season. I think that's important in terms of producing your best possible performances. There's great scope for an excellent match, but ultimately this is a two-legged tie, and it's also a match that will come down to fine margins. What do Milan not need to do? We know what you're doing well. What do you need to avoid doing? What mistakes do you need to avoid? Milan need to play things 1 minute after another for the entire game tomorrow, and for the second leg we need to show great focus, quality, intensity, energy, the utmost of all of those qualities, because in matches that like these, which are so tight, which are so important, you need to be massively focused in every single moment, both as individuals and as a team. Thank you very much, everyone. See you tomorrow at San Siro.